Welcome to the dark world of scary stories. A place where every sound is a premonition of the unknown, and every shadow is a step into another dimension. If you're ready to open the door to the scariest secrets, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the bell, because the scariest is yet to come. Turn on the light and let's beg. Shadows of Lakeshore Drive. Chicago has always been a city with a history that trembles in the darkness. Its streets remember the era of Al Capone, countless fires, and legends that send shivers down your spine. But there is one address people prefer not to speak of aloud. 847 Lakeshore Drive. Here, in a skyscraper reaching for the heavens, a true nightmare unfolds. Susan and her husband, Alex, had recently moved in. The view from their window was perfect. Lake Michigan's blue expanse stretching to the horizon, the silver glow of the night city. But in the very first week, they noticed something strange. At night, someone stood in the living room. A blurred figure, like a silhouette in the darkness, vanishing the moment Susan turned on the light. At first, she blamed it on exhaustion, but when Alex recoiled in fear after seeing the same thing, there was no doubt left. Something was there. Something that shouldn't be. They tried talking to their neighbors, but most just averted their eyes in silence. One old man, who had lived there since the 70s, warned them, "If you hear footsteps behind you, don't turn around. And whatever happens, never leave the mirrors open at night." Susan hadn't slept in days. She dreamt of a man in a black coat standing by their window, despite them living on the 32nd floor. His face was white as chalk, and his eyes, two bottomless, dark voids. One night, she woke up to a cold breath on her neck. The closet mirror was ajar. On its fogged surface, words appeared, "You're looking the wrong way." The next morning, she found an article in the city archives. In 1954, a woman named Eleanor Drake had lived there. Her body was discovered at the bottom of the elevator shaft, her face frozen in a silent scream. But the most terrifying part? The day before her death, she had called a friend, claiming that a man without eyes lived in her apartment. Alex dismissed it all as superstition, until he met him. One night, he stayed late at the office. When he finally came home, he saw Susan standing in the dark corner of their bedroom. Motionless. "Honey, are you okay?" he asked. She slowly turned her head. Her eyes were black. The apartment lights went out. The next morning, neighbors saw Alex running barefoot down the hallway, screaming that Susan was gone. The door to their apartment was left open. Inside, there was only darkness, but from deep within the room came a slow ticking sound. Footsteps, one by one, approaching the exit. Alex was never seen again. The apartment at 847 Lakeshore Drive is up for sale. But everyone who moves in, sooner or later, hears quiet footsteps behind them. Don't turn around. A few weeks after Alex disappeared, a new couple moved into the apartment, Jessica and Matt. They had found the rental listing at a ridiculously low price for such a prestigious location, and while Matt joked that someone had probably been murdered here for sure, Jessica just waved him off. She loved old buildings, enjoyed the atmosphere of the place, even if there were some eerie rumors about it. The first few days passed uneventfully. Only once, in the middle of the night, Jessica woke up to a strange sound. It seemed like someone was scratching the wall with their nails. She nudged Matt, but he only mumbled something incoherent in his sleep. "Just my imagination," she told herself and went back to sleep. But the next day, while cleaning the bedroom, she noticed something strange. On the bathroom mirror, a word had been written, "Don't look back." She wiped it off, assuming it was some kind of stupid prank. Maybe the previous tenants had tried to scare her. But the following night, something even more terrifying happened. Matt was working late, and Jessica was home alone. She was watching a movie in the living room when suddenly, the lights began to flicker. The TV switched channels on its own, cutting to an old news broadcast. The anchor's monotone voice spoke. "The mystery remains unsolved in the case of the couple who vanished from apartment 3201 at Lakeshore Drive." Before Jessica could press a button on the remote, the sound distorted, turning into a whisper. She heard her name. "Jessica!" The voice came from the hallway. Frozen in place, she noticed that the bedroom door was slightly open. But she was sure she had closed it before bed. Her heart pounded in her chest. She took a step forward and cautiously peeked inside. And that's when her blood ran cold. In the wardrobe mirror, she saw her reflection. But it was wrong. Its eyes were black. Its mouth twisted into a grotesque smile. Then, the reflection stepped forward. It stepped out of the mirror. Darkness swallowed the room. When Matt came home, every mirror in the apartment was shattered. Jessica was nowhere to be found. Her phone lay on the floor, its screen still glowing with the last message typed into the Notes app. "He's watching. Don't look back." A few months after Jessica and Matt disappeared, apartment 3201 was back on the market. The real estate agent, a smiling blonde named Kate, reassured the new tenants that all the terrifying stories were just urban legends. Perfect lake view, luxurious renovations, top-tier security. She insisted to the young woman standing by the panoramic window. Sarah was a journalist, searching for a story that could make her famous. She had heard about the mysterious disappearances in this building and decided she would uncover the truth that others were too afraid to even mention. She moved into apartment 3201 with a voice recorder and a camera. The plan was simple: live there for a few weeks, document any strange occurrences, and gather material for an article. Night 1: the bathroom. Steam on the mirror, except she hadn't taken a shower. Words appeared on the glass. "You are not alone." Night 2: Sarah woke up at 3:12 a.m. A chilling sensation, like someone was standing beside her bed. She slowly lifted her eyes and saw a dark figure in the corner of the room. Night 3: the camera she had left recording in the kitchen captured something horrifying. Chairs moving on their own, cabinet doors swinging open, and at one point, a reflection of a person. But she was alone in the apartment. Sarah no longer laughed at the old legends. She started asking the neighbors questions. An elderly woman living a few floors below whispered the terrifying truth. "It's not just a ghost. This place itself, it pulls people in. They disappear, but in reality, they never leave." "What do you mean?" The woman hesitated. Then in a hushed voice she said, "Look in the mirrors. They're like gateways. You haven't seen them yet?" Sarah didn't answer, but her fingers clenched into a fist. Because she had seen them. The next night at exactly 3 a.m., she heard voices. They whispered her name. She grabbed her phone and turned on the camera. Approaching the mirror, she whispered, "If someone is here, show yourself." And then her reflection smiled. But she wasn't smiling. Its lips moved, though hers remained tightly shut. And then in her own voice, the reflection spoke. "Too late." Darkness swallowed her whole. The next morning the apartment door was wide open. The journalist was never found. The camera in the living room recorded only one thing: a single frame of the mirror. And in it, Sarah's reflection. She was standing on the other side, screaming. But there was no sound. The building at 847 Lake Shore Drive had long been called cursed. But money decides everything, so apartment 3201 was once again put up for rent. And once again, it found a new tenant. Thomas Graves didn't believe in ghosts. He was an IT specialist, a skeptic, convinced that all these stories were just fabrications. The perfect place for him, a luxurious apartment for a ridiculously low price. He moved in, unpacked his things, and went about his usual routine, working late nights, listening to music, and ignoring the dark corners of the room. The first night passed peacefully. The second night too. On the third night, Thomas had a dream. He was standing in his bedroom, in front of the large mirror. But his reflection didn't move. It just stood there, staring at him with empty eyes. He woke up drenched in cold sweat. But he told himself it was just a dream. The next evening, something even stranger happened. Coming home from work, he noticed the bathroom door was open. But he was certain he had closed it. Steam had formed on the mirror, as if someone had just taken a shower. He ran a finger across the glass, and saw letters appear beneath the mist. "He is already here." His chest tightened. "This is a bad joke," he muttered to himself, trying to stay calm. But in that moment, something changed. The room fell silent. Too silent. The clock had stopped. And then, he heard it. A quiet, barely perceptible whisper behind him. "Thomas!" He froze. His blood ran cold. He could feel someone standing right behind him. But he remembered the rule. Don't look back. Breathing heavily, he took a step forward. Then another. The whisper grew louder. "Thomas!" He bolted for the door. His hand was inches from the handle when the lights went out. Darkness. The room filled with a terrible sound, like 100 voices screaming at once. Something grabbed his arm. And that's when he broke. He looked back. The next morning the door to apartment 3201 was wide open. The room was empty. Thomas Graves was never seen again. A new message appeared on the living room mirror. One more. Apartment 3201 is available for rent again. Would you still like to submit an application? And so, as darkness once again envelopes you, we say goodbye, but not for long. Remember, the night is never truly safe. Subscribe so you don't miss the new horrors, and come back when it's time for new nightmares. Beware of the shadows. They are always near. Until next time.